Hey guys, tonight we're diving deep, like kneading dough with our souls deep, into one of the most mysterious, inexplicably satisfying shapes your pet cat can take. That's right, picture your fluffy companion, maybe a tabby with white mittens or a moody void cat with eyes like planets, slowly curling into that perfect compact form that resembles a freshly baked dinner roll. You're watching this living bread loaf settle, paws tucked, eyes half-lidded, tail invisible, and something inside you just clicks. Peace, cozy, warmth, and also, inexplicably, hunger? Let's be honest, you probably won't survive the sheer adorableness of what's coming. Between the toe beans you can't see, the silent judgment in their stare, and the fact that your cat is currently more bread than beast, you're in danger of slipping into a loaf-induced trance. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing when and where we're loafing together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying back now, breathing slows, and somewhere in your house, a cat is probably transforming into a loaf at this very moment. No dramatic stretch, no wild pounce, just a silent commitment to becoming bread. It starts with that casual saunter, you know the one. Your cat glides into the room like royalty who accidentally walked in on a peasant meeting. There's a glance at you, a vague acknowledgement that you exist, and then the slow, silent assessment of where to loaf. You might think it's random. It is not. That patch of sunlight on the carpet, already bookmarked in your cat's mental loaf ledger. That spot where you just folded laundry? Ideal. And if you just laid out a fresh sweater? Congratulations, it now belongs to the loaf. There's a well-known fact among cat lovers. Cats are heat-seeking loaf machines. Their normal body temperature runs warmer than ours, which makes warm surfaces almost magnetic. What you're seeing isn't just relaxation, it's strategic toasting. And then the transformation begins. Back paws draw in, tail folds under, front paws disappear like they never existed. It's not sitting, it's not lying down, it's not curling up. It's something else, something otherworldly, and you watch enthralled as your cat completes the ritual. Even animal behaviorists admit they're not totally sure what motivates the loaf posture beyond comfort and heat conservation. Some suggest it's a form of neutral vigilance. Your cat is resting, but not vulnerable. Others suspect it's a preference rooted in instinct, like tucking in limbs to avoid detection in the wild. Pet owners often wonder if there's more to it, like maybe your cat knows how much joy the loaf shape brings. Maybe there's some part of your feline friend that's performing, that's saying, I know I look like a bakery item, and I am fine with it. And once they have become the loaf, something sacred happens. Time slows. Your cat doesn't move, doesn't blink much. Occasionally, the tail tip may twitch, or the ears swivel, especially if you breathe too loudly, or dare to open a chip bag. But mostly, they remain solid, committed, absurdly elegant. Fun tidbit, some cats loaf with such regularity in one location that they start leaving a little imprint, fur pressed into the cushion in the exact shape of their favorite pose, like a fossil, but fluffier. There are, of course, fringe cases. Cats who loaf crookedly, for instance. One paw stubbornly refuses to tuck. It sticks out like a defiant breadstick. These are incomplete loafs, and while no less adorable, They're often accompanied by some side-eye from your cat, as if to say, "I'm aware of my imperfection, don't make it weird." There are also flattened loafs, in which the cat seems to melt slightly into the surface, creating more of a panini aesthetic. These typically occur after particularly sunny naps or on heated floors, and should be treated with the reverence they deserve. Then you have anxious loafs, a rare subcategory, where the posture is loaf adjacent, but the ears are tense and the eyes dart like they're scanning the room for ghosts. These are not cozy loafs. These are suspicious baguettes. Of course, not every cat is a master loafer. Some are chaotic loungers, belly floppers, full-stretch sprawlers. And yet, even these cats, given the right mood, temperature, and existential peace, will one day discover their inner loaf. Just last week, remember? Your usually aloof void cat, the one who only ever sleeps in closet corners or under the couch, wandered in and, without warning, loafed on top of your gaming keyboard. You couldn't finish your raid, but honestly, worth it. So you reach out now, gently. You place a tentative finger on the top of their head, testing whether the loaf will tolerate affection. A slow blink. Acceptance. You have been blessed. And as you pet that living loaf, you notice something. Their breathing is deep, even. Their ears are relaxed. Their fur slightly warmed from the patch of sunlight. You're suddenly aware of your own breath sinking to theirs. And in that stillness, that shared loaf moment, you feel it. The world can wait. There are no emails, no bills, just you, your cat, and the inexplicable magic of becoming bread. You lie back now. Let the softness of the blanket and the weight of your cat's calm wrap around you. This is just the beginning. Now that you're well and truly loaf-aware, let's talk about those paws. Specifically, the disappearing act that transforms even the sassiest feline into a little mound of mystery bread. Paws tucked underneath, tail vanishing into nowhere, whiskers angled just so. It's like your cat decided to cosplay as a dinner roll with opinions. You've seen it 100 times, maybe more. But have you ever stopped to notice the exact precision of it all? The way your cat draws their front legs inward, like folding a note you weren't meant to read. There's no flailing, no fumbling, just a smooth, silent withdrawal. And poof, gone, pawless, suspiciously compact. It's not just cute, it's calculated. Cats have an incredible sense of proprioception, which basically means they always know exactly where their limbs are, even when hidden. So when those paws vanish, they're not jammed under there like a messy tangle. No, they're aligned, perfectly, precisely, like feline origami. Some pet behaviorists believe this ultra-compact pose has an evolutionary root. In the wild, keeping limbs tucked under means protecting soft tissue and vital joints. Especially if you're resting on cold ground or watching for predators, every inch counts. Even when loafing on your kitchen rug, your cat is channeling their inner jungle panther. Pet owners often wonder if this pose means something more. Is your cat meditating? Judging you? Secretly initiating a complex series of telepathic communications with other neighborhood cats? Maybe. Or maybe they just really like the feeling of their floofy belly brushing a warm surface. Still, there's something sacred about a tucked paw. And here's a fringe fact for you. Not all cats tuck symmetrically. Some are front paw purists, both paws hidden. Others are half loafers, where one paw peeks slightly out like it's not ready to fully commit to the loaf life. Then you have side tuckers, where a single back leg folds at an impossible angle, creating a loaf with flair. If you've got a tripod kitty, oh, you'll see some real creative loafing. Those cats invent entirely new categories. Crooked loafs, twisted loafs, the leaning tower of pawsa. They don't just loaf, they innovate. And then, of course, there's the magical moment when you spot the tail tip, just barely visible from under the loaf. It's not always there, but when it is, it wiggles just enough to remind you there's a mischievous, semi-feral creature inside this bread blob. Let's not ignore the whiskers either, because when a cat loafs, the whiskers settle. They no longer flare outward in alert curiosity. They drop, soften. A few may twitch in response to passing breezes or the sound of food wrappers, because yes, a loaf will always hear food. Always. You lean a little closer, carefully. Loafs can be skittish. There's an invisible field around them, a do not disturb zone. Violate it and the loaf might de-loaf, and once that happens, it's over. You can't reassemble a loaf manually. Only the cat holds that power. Fun tidbit. Some owners swear their cats only loaf on approved surfaces. Fleece blankets? Yes. Glass coffee tables? Also yes, weirdly. Hardwood floors? Only if they're heated. But that decorative tile in your entryway you paid too much for? Never. Loafing is a form of interior design critique. Accept it. There's something both humbling and hilarious about the sheer authority your cat has over the loaf. They can loaf anywhere, anytime, without warning. You, meanwhile, are sitting there in jeans that definitely don't stretch, wondering why your cat looks more comfortable than you've felt in years. And when your cat does that deep, slow blink while loafing, it's like getting winked at by a cloud. A fluffy, judgmental cloud that probably knocked your houseplant over earlier. Behaviorists still argue whether the tucked paw loaf is more about body temperature or psychological calm. Some data suggests loafing cats tend to be in a middle ground of alertness, not ready to sleep, but not fully active. It's the not prep zone, the liminal state between zoomy and snooze. You remember the last time your cat loafed next to your laptop, right? Blocking the keyboard, as always. You didn't move them. You wouldn't dare. That loaf was too perfect. You typed around them, arms awkwardly reaching, knowing full well you were no longer the main character in your own workspace. Because that's the thing. When a cat loafs, they command the environment. They become the visual center of the room. Your eyes keep drifting back to them. You want to take a photo. You want to caption it, but you also don't want to disturb the loaf aura. It's too peaceful. Let's pause here, literally, and imagine that soft little mound breathing slowly beside you. Maybe it's your cat or a memory of one. The way the fur along their shoulders rises and falls. The subtle purr, maybe, or just the ambient rhythm of their presence. Maybe they're dreaming now. Their eyelids flutter just slightly. What are they dreaming about? A never-ending sunbeam? A box that smells like chicken? Or maybe they're dreaming of you, just being near you, because you're warm, safe, and part of the loafing ritual. The room is quiet now. You shift slightly in bed, careful not to disturb the real or imagined cat beside you. You've entered loaf time, a sacred state. Everything else can wait. By now, you've probably started to sense a pattern. Loafing isn't random. It's a ritual, and every ritual begins with one crucial step, finding the perfect spot. That one impossibly precise location where your cat will choose to compress themselves into a compact pastry of serenity. And more often than not, that perfect spot is where the sun hits the floor at exactly a 45-degree angle for precisely 7 minutes a day. You've seen it. Your cat strolls into the room like a snooty art curator evaluating empty gallery space. They pause, consider, rotate exactly 12 degrees to the left, sniff the rug, reject the rug, sniff the windowsill, reconsider the rug, then finally, dramatically, select a square of sunlit carpet the size of a pancake as their chosen loaf zone. Because yes, the warmest spot always wins. It's a well-known fact among cat owners that felines will seek out warmth like it's a competitive sport. Their natural body temperature hovers around 102 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 39 degrees Celsius. So it's no surprise that they gravitate toward anything, even vaguely warm. Sunbeams, electronics, your freshly worn hoodie that still smells like stress and snacks. Pet owners often wonder if cats can somehow see warmth. And here's the fun twist. They kind of can. Cats have highly developed thermoreceptors in their faces, especially around their noses, which means they can detect temperature changes in the environment better than you detect your phone overheating on your chest at 2 a.m. And don't get me started on laptops, or gaming consoles, or the mysterious way your cat always manages to loaf right on top of your router just as you're trying to upload a file. It's like they know. Like they're absorbing not just warmth, but attention. Fringe observation. Some cats will perform test loafs in new spaces. That's right, partial loafing, held for 30 seconds, then full abandonment. It's as if they're saying, I could loaf here, but I won't. Not yet. I'm just checking the vibe. And then, once they find the golden square, the sweet, radiant rectangle of sunshine, they begin the descent. There's a choreography to it. Back legs lower first, like the base of a transformer folding inward. Then the front limbs, drawn beneath like tucked cords. A little tail shuffle, a pause, a blink, and then stillness. Achievement unlocked. You could walk into the room right now and see that loaf in profile, ears erect, eyes half shut, fur glowing like caramel in the light, and feel like you're witnessing a tiny forest deity communing with the sun. And if you think this is dramatic, just remember your cat would absolutely agree with you. Because cats don't just occupy a warm spot. They consecrate it. They sink into it. Their bodies mold to the surface. They become one with it. And somehow, in the process, you start to envy them. Because when was the last time you felt that relaxed? Remember that time last winter when the afternoon sun hit your couch just right and you caught your cat already loafed before you even got your shoes off? The smugness in their eyes. They knew that was the spot. You were too late. They beat you to it. And what did you do? Did you move them? Of course not. You sat next to the loaf. You adjusted because you understood the loaf takes priority. There's something poetic about the way cats chase sunlight throughout the day, like they're following a secret celestial schedule. Morning loaf in the kitchen window, afternoon loaf on the bedspread, evening loaf in front of the heater vent, nighttime loaf on your chest. And if it's rainy, overcast, no sunbeam in sight, they loaf anyway. But the commitment level drops by maybe 15%. You can tell. The ears stay slightly more upright. The tail doesn't quite disappear. It's a functional loaf, not a spiritual one. Behaviorists still debate whether cats choose loafing spots for warmth, visibility, scent, or just chaos. Some argue it's a dominance behavior, claiming the center of your attention, your blanket, your pillow. Others say it's comfort, pure and simple, a way to conserve heat while keeping every escape route open. Whatever the reason, the result is always the same. You walk in and there's a loaf where a wild animal should be. And then the internal conflict begins. You want to touch them. You really, really do. But you also don't want to ruin the moment. Because once a loaf has been disturbed, it's like dropping a snow globe. Everything shatters. The tail flicks, the ears tilt, the paws emerge. You've ruined it. You were so close to enlightenment. So you sit, quietly, watching your little bread cat toast themselves in golden light, like a furry cinnamon bun on a sun-warmed plate. You let your eyes close just for a second. The warmth of the image sticks with you. Even now, you can almost feel it on your own back, like you too are lying in the sun, compact, safe, perfectly folded. There's peace in that loaf, stillness, intention. Let yourself sink into it, too. At some point, your cat expands their loafing kingdom beyond the sunlit patches and clean floors. They begin to claim objects, specific objects, items you once thought were your own. Sacred, untouchable things like laundry piles, book stacks, and the one throw blanket you actually like. And suddenly, you start to notice the pattern. Your cat is choosing these spaces not just for warmth, but for height, softness, scent, or, let's be real, the pure thrill of inconvenience. Yes, we're entering the realm of furniture loafing, where couches become stages, beds become thrones, and cardboard boxes become temples. There's a well-known pet owner observation that if a surface exists, your cat will loaf upon it. If it cradles their fluff and vaguely smells like you, even better. It doesn't matter how small, precarious, or entirely inappropriate that surface is. If your cat fits, they will sit and loaf. Let's rewind to that time you left a freshly folded towel on the chair. You walked away for one minute. When you returned, there it was, a full loaf, squarely positioned at the center, daring you to finish your chore around it. You knew better than to try moving them. That wasn't a towel anymore. That was property. Pet owners often wonder if cats choose objects based on comfort or just a need to interrupt. Behaviorists suggest it's both. Cats are territorial and scent-driven creatures, so when they loaf on your laundry, they're not just getting cozy, they're mingling their scent with yours. It's a weird little sign of affection, sort of like hugging if hugging involved stealing your socks. And speaking of socks, some cats loaf in drawers, closed drawers. Don't ask how they got in. They're like loaf ninjas. You'll just be looking for a t-shirt and suddenly, fluff, a perfectly formed, judgmental loaf nestled between your least flattering pajamas. But the true throne of all loafing zones, the back of the couch. It's the ultimate vantage point, a slightly elevated loaf perch that lets your cat observe everything. TV drama, family arguments, the mail arriving, and your failed attempt at yoga, all while maintaining their iconic, unmoving silhouette. And then there are boxes. If cardboard boxes had a religion, cats would be both gods and parishioners. A shoebox, no matter how undersized, instantly attracts the loaf. It's snug, it's protective, it's somehow sacred. Quirky fact time. Many cats will test loaf a new box by first sitting with one leg out, tail slightly swishing, eyes narrowed. This pre-loaf is a sacred moment. You must not interfere. After a few sniffs, a turn, and a dramatic pause, the loaf is formed, and the box is never the same. Of course, not all loafing zones are approved by humans. There's the infamous kitchen counter loaf, a deeply illegal yet oddly majestic event. The cat appears like a baked offering next to your fruit bowl, surveying your moral weakness. You know you should remove them, you don't. Some cats even loaf in drawers, closed drawers. Don't ask how they got in. They're like loaf ninjas. You'll just be looking for a t-shirt and suddenly fluff, a perfectly formed, judgmental loaf nestled between your least flattering pajamas. But the true throne of all loafing zones, the back of the couch. It's the ultimate vantage point, a slightly elevated loaf perch that lets your cat observe everything. TV drama, family arguments, the mail arriving, and your failed attempt at yoga, all while maintaining their iconic, unmoving silhouette. And then there are boxes. If cardboard boxes had a religion, cats would be both gods and parishioners. A shoebox, no matter how undersized, instantly attracts the loaf. It's snug, it's protective, it's somehow sacred. Quirky fact time. Many cats will test loaf a new box by first sitting with one leg out, tail slightly swishing, eyes narrowed. This pre-loaf is a sacred moment. You must not interfere. After a few sniffs, a turn, and a dramatic pause, the loaf is formed, and the box is never the same. Of course, not all loafing zones are approved by humans. There's the infamous kitchen counter loaf, a deeply illegal yet oddly majestic event. The cat appears like a baked offering next to your fruit bowl, surveying your moral weakness. You know you should remove them, you don't. Some cats even loaf on moving things. Yes, it defies physics. Roombas, laundry baskets mid-carry, open suitcases. They balance like circus performers. One paw tucked, the other mysteriously vanished, tail curled just so. You're not sure if you're impressed or mildly terrified. Let's take a moment to picture your cat's favorite loafing object right now. Maybe it's that one pillow on your bed, the decorative one that was never meant for actual use, or the laptop keyboard, radiating that sweet artificial heat, or the oddly shaped plastic lid you never meant to leave on the floor. Whatever it is, your cat has claimed it, and they've claimed it with buttery grace. Behaviorists still argue whether cats are more drawn to the warmth, the texture, or simply the frequency of your attention to the object. The theory goes, if it's important to you, your cat will put their butt on it. You know it's true. Think about your cat loafing on a fresh book you're trying to read. You shift it, they shift with it. You lift the book, they stand. You place it elsewhere, they loaf on it again. It's a kind of fluffy protest, a small rebellion wrapped in velvet. And if you've got a cat who chooses the same object every time, say the exact corner of your pillow every night, that's not just preference, that's routine. Cats love routine. They find comfort in the expected, the familiar, the just so. And when they loaf in that favorite spot day after day, they're doing more than resting. They're making a statement. This is mine. And, by extension, so are you. Now picture it. Your cat is curled up, tucked tight on the edge of your favorite blanket. Maybe their tail is twitching slightly in a dream, or their ears are flicking at a faraway sound. But they don't move. They don't need to. They're in their zone. And something about that moment settles you, too. You sit near them, not too close, not interrupting, just coexisting in this quiet corner of ownership and warmth. You watch the rise and fall of their sides, the small rhythmic breaths, the slight, sleepy sigh. Maybe they open their eyes for just a second. Meet yours. Blink slowly. You've been acknowledged. That loaf, that object they're loafing on, that's your shared space now. There comes a moment, maybe you've noticed it, when your cat enters a room with regal purpose, surveys the area like a curator appraising a museum floor plan, and chooses their posture not just for comfort, but for aesthetic impact. And suddenly, you're not entirely sure if you're looking at a loaf or a sphinx. Yes, the distinction is real, and yes, it matters. Because not every tucked paw, elegant pose is a full-blown loaf. There are cousins to the loaf, extended family, if you will, and the sphinx is chief among them. Tall, dignified, slightly smug, the bred with ambitions. Where the loaf is compact, squishy, and undeniably edible-looking, the sphinx pose involves a little more length, a little more alertness. Paws might still be tucked, but the chest is lifted, the head is high, the tail is wrapped with intention. This is not a nap pose, this is a watchtower. It's a well-known cat behavior cue. Loafing signals contentment and safety, but when the loaf begins to stretch upward into a sphinx, it's often a sign of mild curiosity or even readiness to move. Your cat is still relaxed, but the engine is idling. Pet owners often wonder, why the shift? Why not just flop over and embrace the nap like a normal creature? Because cats are never just resting. They're performing. There is a stage in every room, and whether they're loafing or sphinxing, they're doing it with an audience in mind. You. Quirky note. Some cats perform transitional loafing. That's when they begin in a sphinx pose, paws out, chest tall, then slowly collapse downward until they reach full loaf status. It's like watching bread rise in reverse. You may even see them yawn mid-transition, that enormous, slow, gaping yawn that ends with their tongue curling like a cinnamon roll and their eyes gently blinking into oblivion. The performance is over. The loaf is now active. Behaviorists still argue whether loafing is more about energy conservation or mood signaling. Is it a nap-pending status, a warm-up stretch, or just a flex? The Sphinx pose, in contrast, is often seen as more alert, used when cats are observing a room, sniffing a breeze, or listening to invisible drama in the walls. And yet, sphinxes and loafs sometimes blur. You've likely walked into the room, coffee in hand, and found your cat perched halfway between the two, not quite sitting, not quite loafing, just posing, perfectly symmetrical, unbothered by your struggle to interpret it. This pose, this gray area between loaf and sphinx, is a kind of feline punctuation. It's not a full stop, it's an ellipsis, a pause, a fluffy semicolon between moments of action. And if you're brave enough to get close enough to see the little fur wrinkles along their shoulders, the careful line of their tucked-in paws, the way their whiskers fan just slightly upward with each breath, you'll realize this is not laziness. This is control. Remember the time you tried to mimic your cat's pose on the couch? You thought it looked comfy. You tucked your legs, hunched your shoulders, folded your arms. 2 minutes later, you had a cramp in your back and a sense of regret. Meanwhile, your cat held the pose for an hour, eyes closed, like a meditating statue of velvet. You have to respect that. And then there are the drama cats. You know the ones. They start as a loaf, tight, minimal, then slowly shift to the sphinx, rising like a soufflé. They stretch a paw forward, arch their neck, and glance at you slowly, meaningfully, as if to say, I was a loaf, but I am more now. One paw dangles elegantly off the side of a windowsill. The head tilts. The sun hits their whiskers just right. You sigh audibly, knowing your phone's about to fill with yet another 30 photos you'll never delete. Let's not forget the rare Sphinx-loaf combo, a pose so ambiguous that even trained behaviorists are baffled. One paw's out, the other is mysteriously gone. The cat is slightly slouched, but the head is upright. Is it relaxed? Is it vigilant? Is it secretly plotting to knock over your glass of water? All of the above. You move to sit beside them, carefully, quietly. You don't want to disrupt the geometry of the moment. Your cat blinks once, approves, and just like that, you're in. You're not just observing the loaf, you're part of the tableau. The room quiets. Outside, maybe there's a distant car, a breeze nudging the curtains, a faint creak in the floorboards. Inside, the cat does not stir. Their shape is still, their breath even. You match it, unconsciously maybe, but you do. And as your own posture softens, shoulders slackening, heartbeat steadying, you realize something. You've just spent the better part of 5 minutes admiring your cat doing absolutely nothing. And it was perfect. There's a special kind of moment that sneaks up on you in the late afternoon. Maybe you're working, maybe you're doom scrolling, maybe you're just trying to find the TV remote, which, let's be honest, your cat has probably claimed. And then, without warning, you look up and see it, a loaf. But not just any loaf, a loaf that is watching you. Not blinking, not moving, not twitching a whisker. Just loafed, perfectly, squarely, silently, and absolutely judging you. You know the look. Eyes half-lidded, not quite sleepy, not quite alert. That faint curl at the edge of their mouth that implies, you made that life choice, huh? And suddenly you feel a little self-conscious about the snack you just devoured, or the socks you still haven't picked up off the floor. It's a well-known phenomenon in multi-cat households. Some cats are expert silent observers. They loaf in high corners, the tops of shelves, the back of couches. Always loafing, always watching, like furry little sentinels. Pet owners often wonder if the loaf stare means anything, and behaviorists, they're still debating. Some say it's a sign of passive affection, others think it's simply the cat zoning out in a safe, relaxed state. But there's something undeniably intense about being seen by a loaf, especially when you didn't hear them arrive. One moment the room is empty, the next there's a loaf on your printer, staring like it's reading your tax documents and finding your spending habits deeply questionable. It's quirky, right? How something so small and compact can feel omnipresent? You could be halfway across the room, back turned, and still feel the burn of invisible loaf judgment warming the base of your skull. And then, to make it weirder, sometimes they wink. One slow blink, deliberate, eternal, as if to say, I am both cat and deity. You may continue. Remember the time your cat loafed in the doorway? Not in the room, not fully engaged, just blocking the entrance with their whole furry being. You tried to step over them. They didn't move, just stared. You hesitated. They won. Loafing, in that moment, becomes more than comfort. It becomes presence. Your cat is no longer just loafing. They are existing at you. A fringe behavior, sometimes spotted in older cats, is the philosopher loaf. These cats will sit for extended periods in the loaf pose while seemingly staring into a corner of the room where absolutely nothing is happening. And they'll hold that pose for 40 minutes. No shift, no sigh, just bread with thoughts. You've even checked for ghosts, admit it. And here's the kicker. The longer the loaf stares, the more you start to adjust your behavior. You type more carefully, you chew more quietly, you sit up straighter. You become somehow more accountable to the cat-shaped carb watching you from your dresser. Behaviorists call it passive vigilance. You call it being evaluated by a croissant. The silent judgment loaf is also a master of timing. They know when to appear. Right after you say something embarrassing on a Zoom call, boom, loaf in the background. Just when you trip over your own shoe in the hallway, boom, loaf watching from the stairs. It's like they're building a dossier. You might be wondering, can I approach the loaf? Can I pet it? Short answer, maybe. Long answer, you approach slowly. You extend a cautious hand. The loaf doesn't move. Encouraging. You make contact, a soft, warm head, still unmoving. You stroke once, twice, and then, thump, the tail flicks. Not a warning, not a stop, just a gentle reminder that you're trespassing on holy ground. But sometimes, if the stars align, you'll hear it. A single purr, deep, subtle, like a motor humming under layers of fluff. You weren't rejected, you were permitted. That loaf wasn't judging you. It was holding space for you, sharing the silence, matching your stillness with its own. And now you're mirroring them. You've stopped fidgeting, your breath is slow, your hands rest gently in your lap. The screen's glow dims as your focus softens. You're no longer performing for anyone. You're just here, loaf adjacent. And the cat? Still watching, still present. But now the judgment is gone. Now it's just two creatures, sharing a room, sharing quiet. The world outside keeps spinning, but in this little pocket of time, the loaf holds it all still. You've probably tried it at least once. Reached out slowly, hand hovering with hope, fingertips brushing against a warm patch of fur. Maybe your cat was nestled into their best loaf yet, tucked, tight, symmetrical like a pastry born in a Michelin-starred kitchen. And you couldn't help it. You had to pet the loaf. Big mistake. Because as you know by now, interrupting a loaf is basically treason. There's a well-known cat owner truth. The more perfect the loaf, the higher the risk of retribution when disturbed. Tap the head, you might get a slow blink or a death glare. Try to lift them off the keyboard, you may lose a finger. Attempt to slide a coaster under their body because they're loafing directly on your coffee table? Oh, sweet summer child, you should have known better. Loafing is sacred. Loafing is contractual. You don't touch a loaf unless invited. Pet owners often wonder if their cat is actually asleep in the loaf. The answer? Sometimes. But often they're simply processing. They're not napping, they're buffering. Ready to sleep, ready to sprint, undecided between the two. And when you reach out in that moment, gentle, well-intentioned, you risk breaking the spell. A paw reappears from nowhere. The tail flicks like punctuation. The ears rotate 180 degrees of disapproval. You've touched the untouchable. But sometimes they allow it. You rest your palm against their back, and the warmth is immediate. The fur is soft, static-free, somehow exactly body temperature. You begin a tentative stroke. Once, twice, the loaf exhales, and then, miracle of miracles, the eyes close again. Permission granted. This is a fringe behavior, by the way, the accepting loaf, a rare subbreed of feline who welcomes gentle affection while loafing. Not common, not guaranteed. It's like finding a golden ticket, warm, fuzzy, purring. Remember that one afternoon when your cat loafed in your lap? Not beside you, not near you, on you. They made you the pillow, the tray, the human plate. And you didn't move for an hour. Your leg went numb, your drink got warm, you ignored 12 notifications because you were hosting the loaf. Behaviorists still argue whether loafing on a human means deeper trust or simply superior heating efficiency. Cats are efficient creatures. If you're soft, still, and 98.6 degrees, you're basically a mattress with snacks. But admit it, you felt chosen. Let's not forget the passive-aggressive de-loaf, the slow, dramatic unwrapping of the loaf that happens when you really push your luck. Maybe you moved a little, sneezed too loudly, reached for your phone and jostled the blanket, and suddenly the loaf unfolds. Not fast, not startled, just slowly undone. Limbs reappear. They stretch with excessive grace. Maybe a yawn, long and theatrical. Then they move across the room into a less accessible corner, like an artist retreating from critics. You didn't just lose the loaf, you lost access, and it always feels personal. But don't worry, the loaf will return, in time, in a different room, possibly on your freshly folded laundry. Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes the cat just gets too warm, or hears a mysterious sound you can't detect, or remembers the existence of gravity and decides to flop sideways into a crescent pose. Fun fact, when cats de-loaf into a full curl or sprawl, they often make a soft grunt or sigh. It's like the feline version of undoing your jeans after a big meal. That's better. You've seen it, haven't you? The slow lean, the back leg extends, one front paw reaches forward like it's auditioning for ballet, and then collapse. The loaf is gone, replaced by something looser, sloppier. Still cute, but no longer sacred. So you wait. Later, maybe, you walk into the kitchen, you glance at the windowsill, and there it is. Another loaf. Different location, same quiet magic. You hesitate. Do you dare? This time, no. You admire from a distance. You sit, you breathe, And as your own body sinks into the couch, mirroring the stillness before you, you realize something. The loaf has trained you. You now recognize the warning signs. You know when to approach. You know when to admire. You've learned the unspoken rules. And in return, you've been given access to something deeply serene. The art of stillness, the power of quiet, the beauty of a cat doing nothing. Loafing, after all, isn't just a posture. It's a boundary, a mood, a whole philosophy. Some nights the house is too quiet. You're reading or scrolling or just lying there in that peculiar post-dinner, pre-bed limbo where time feels sticky. Everything is still until it's not. Suddenly, there's a thump, a blur of fur, a sound you can't quite trace, and just like that, zoomies. You know the drill. Your cat has entered the chaos hour, sprinting across the furniture like a caffeinated raccoon, claws skittering on tile, a mad dash from the living room to the kitchen to the hallway and back, for no reason, at top speed, at exactly the worst possible time. But then, without warning, it stops. They freeze. And there it is, a loaf, a full-bodied, paws tucked, tail hidden, wide-eyed loaf smack in the middle of the hallway, where mere seconds ago they were doing parkour off your bookcase. Yes, you've just witnessed it, the loafed while zooming phenomenon. It's a fringe behavior, sure, but more common than you'd think. Cats go from 100 to 0 in the blink of an eye. One moment they're possessed by the spirit of a squirrel on espresso, the next they're motionless, breathing heavy, eyes huge, and somehow, impossibly, in loaf form. Pet owners often wonder how cats shift gears so fast, and honestly, so do scientists. One theory is that the zoomies, formerly known as frenetic random activity periods, are a way for indoor cats to burn off excess energy, like pressing shuffle on their instincts. But what about the loaf that follows? Some behaviorists suggest it's a cool-down phase, like a meditative squat, an instinctive reset. When the zoom has ended, the loaf begins. Imagine it. Your cat mid-zoom skids around the corner, bumps into the wall, and instead of walking it off like a normal creature, they tuck. Instantly, like a little fluffy crash landing. The first time you saw it, you thought, are they broken? But no, they are buffering, loaf loading. The eye is still scan, the ears flick, but the body is locked in the bread state. It's as if they're trying to pretend the zoomies never happened. Loafing is denial. Loafing is dignity reasserted. This is especially common in younger cats or high-energy breeds. One moment they're leaping onto the fridge, the next, loafed on the floor like a judgmental potato. And it's not just indoors. Ever seen your cat get spooked in the garden? A bird chirps, a leaf moves, and suddenly, bolt, full cartoon run, legs a blur. But then, under the porch, on the patio tiles, loaf. Just loaf. Like they were there the whole time. Like, what chaos? I've always given this chill. It's a defensive move in some theories. Cats feel safer when they're compact, less vulnerable, everything tucked in, no dangling limbs to startle. So after adrenaline has worn off, they instinctively pack themselves tight, like furry origami. And let's be honest, there's something hilarious about the abruptness of it all. You go from, ah, to, ah, in 3 seconds flat. Remember last week? You dropped a spoon. Your cat launched off the couch like a rocket. 10 seconds of NASCAR-grade sprinting, and then boom, loaf. On the stairs, breathing like a tiny, judgmental bread machine. You crept up to them, quiet, respectful. They didn't move, didn't blink, just watched you with those big, accusing eyes like, yes, I am a floor loaf. You may address me now. Pet owners often joke that cats are solar-powered, and maybe it's true. But during these zoom loaf moments, they're like fluffy kinetic batteries that immediately convert motion into loaf energy.
One second, you've got a parkour prodigy on your hands. The next, you're staring at a pancake of calm. It's jarring, it's funny, and it's weirdly comforting, because it's a reminder that your cat isn't chaotic all the time. Sometimes they just need to compress, reboot, reset. Like when your Wi-Fi goes out and you have to unplug it and wait 30 seconds. Cats do that too, but with their bodies. Behaviorists are still undecided on whether this post-Zoom loaf has social implications, like a signal to say, okay, I'm done now. Let's all pretend that didn't happen. Or if it's just the feline version of sitting on the floor after running for a bus you didn't catch. Either way, it's iconic. You tiptoe past them, afraid to interrupt the process. Their ears twitch once, a lazy blink, you're acknowledged. The room softens. Your own breath evens out. And slowly, your mind does too. Because if a creature that just sprinted through 4 rooms can find peace in a loaf, maybe you can too. So you stretch, exhale, let go of the weird day, the cringy moment, the unfinished list. Let yourself loaf in your own way. Legs tucked, arms still, head heavy. Because even in chaos, the loaf returns. It always does.
Let's take a gentler turn now. Quieter, slower. Imagine your cat, not yet fully grown, a miniature ball of curiosity with paws too big for its body and eyes that haven't decided what color they want to be. This, dear friend, is the tiny loaf in training. You've seen it. Maybe you even have pictures. Kittens attempting to loaf, but failing gloriously. One paw still outstretched, a tail refusing to cooperate. That classic awkward angle, like they're trying to imitate their older sibling, but haven't quite unlocked the full loaf protocol. It's like watching a toddler try to sit cross-legged, but end up rolling backward. The intent is there, but the execution? Pure chaos. It's a well-known fact that kittens learn a lot of behaviors through imitation. Grooming, hunting, even nap posture. They watch their environment, especially older cats, and mimic. And loafing? Oh, it's a skill. One they slowly earn. Pet owners often wonder at what age a cat forms its first true loaf. The answer varies. Some kittens show signs of pre-loafing as early as a few weeks, tiny attempts at compacting their flailing limbs. Others need time, confidence, and perhaps a warm laptop keyboard to discover their full loaf potential. Then there are the teens of the cat world, those lanky, slightly unbalanced adolescent cats whose limbs haven't caught up with their personalities. Their loafs look more like baguettes left out in the sun, overstretched, asymmetrical, a little unsure. But they're trying, and it's adorable. Fringe anecdote time. There are cats, usually elderly ones, who evolve beyond the traditional loaf into what some call the slouch loaf. It's not tight, it's not clean, but it's full of wisdom. They sink into a soft rug, paws kind of there, kind of not, the tails draped lazily over the edge, one ear permanently tilted from years of drama, and they look at you like, I've loafed more than you've lived, kid. We respect the slouch loaf. And then, of course, there are the imperfect loafs, the cats who just refuse to conform. Maybe it's due to a physical quirk, an old injury, or just strong personality vibes, but they loaf diagonally, or sideways, or in poses that feel physically impossible. Pet owners often wonder if their cat is broken. The answer? No. Your cat is just expressing their own unique loaf identity. Remember your first cat? The one who never quite got the loaf thing? Who preferred to stretch like a pool noodle in every single room? And then, one chilly night, they surprised you. A single loaf. Perfect.
paws tucked, tail vanished, eyes closed, a first-time bred baby. You almost cried. Admit it. Behaviorists say loafing requires trust. A cat won't tuck themselves tightly unless they feel safe, because in a loaf there's no quick escape. The claws are in, the limbs are hidden. That's vulnerability. So when a kitten loafs near you, that's love. You are warmth, you are shelter, you are chosen. Even now, picture that small, ridiculous kitten trying their best. Head too big, whiskers pointing every direction, flopping down beside their toy, tail twitching, little paws slowly drawing inward until they resemble a furry dumpling. They blink at you, you blink back. A bond is formed. Maybe it's been years. That kitten is now a full-grown loaf machine. Maybe it's another cat now, one who showed up later with their own loaf rituals, their own sleepy dance. But you remember the first time, the first loaf. And here's a sweet detail you might not know. Cats will often loaf in places that smell of safety. Your bed, your favorite hoodie, the old armrest you always sit on during movie nights. Loafing, in that sense, becomes part of your shared language. Here is where I feel safe. Here is where I can soften. Here is where I choose to be still. Now close your eyes for a second. Remember the crooked kitten loaf, the wobbly teenage loaf, the elderly slouch loaf, the surprise loaf on your laptop, the passive-aggressive loaf on your favorite chair. Each one was a message. Each one was a moment. And now, here you are, still loaf-adjacent, still watching, still marveling at how a living creature can say so much without moving a muscle. The loaf is a shape, but it's also a story, a timeline. And you've been there for every chapter. Night creeps in slowly. You're preparing for bed, shutting down lights, brushing your teeth, stacking your phone somewhere just out of reach. It's quiet. The house has exhaled. And then you see it. Again. The overnight oven effect. Your cat loafed on your pillow, on your blanket, on the one spot where your leg usually goes. Warm, compact, deep into REM, looking like a croissant that radiates smugness. You pause. You don't want to move them, but you also need to sleep. And thus begins the ancient bedtime negotiation between human and loaf. It's a well-known reality of pet ownership. You do not own the bed. The cat does. You just borrow portions of it under strict terms and conditions. Pet owners often wonder why cats choose exactly the spot you know you'll need. And the simple answer is because it's warm, because it smells like you, because they can. Some behaviorists call this heat-seeking anchoring. Cats use the spots you've just vacated to regulate their body temperature and feel secure. Others call it resource claiming, especially when it's your pillow. But let's not sugarcoat it. You've been loafed out of your own bed more times than you can count. Fringe observation? The heaviest loafs happen at night. Not in pounds, but in density. There's something about a midnight loaf that triples their gravitational pull. You try to lift them, but your hands hit resistance. They've fused with the blanket. They are the blanket now. And even when you do manage to slide under the sheet, you're greeted with the weight. One compact loaf perched with absolute precision on your shin. They don't stretch, they don't curl, they loaf. And somehow they radiate more heat than a fireplace. It's comforting and a little alarming. Remember last week when you shifted your leg ever so slightly to stretch? The loaf opened one eye, just one, slowly, as if to say, "You're disturbing my bake?" And so you froze. You accepted that you would now sleep at a 27-degree angle. You, the allegedly evolved species, contorted around a fuzzy bread creature to preserve their comfort. Because you're not heartless. Because deep down, you live for these moments. The sound of their soft breathing, the warmth against your calf, the gentle shifting as they resettle to optimize loaf distribution. It's oddly reassuring, like your body has been approved, chosen, designated as safe. Behaviorists still debate whether cats loaf on their humans for affection or strategy. Is it bonding? Is it a well-placed heat mat? Or are they just conveniently there? Probably a mix. But emotionally, it feels like connection. And then there are the nights when you wake up at 3:12 a.m., groggy, parched, slightly tangled in sheets, only to see it. A silhouette loaf at the foot of the bed, illuminated faintly by moonlight, still, watching. You whisper. You stretch. No movement. You go to the bathroom, return. They haven't changed position. They have entered the deep loaf state. This is the overnight oven effect in full force. Their body temperature slightly elevated from a long nap. Their paws deeply tucked, tail nowhere to be seen. The air around them just feels warmer. You tiptoe around them. You rearrange your blanket quietly. And when you lie back down, you do so with reverence. You're sharing space with a being of pure stillness. Sometimes they loaf on your chest or your stomach, or, if you're very unlucky, your bladder. You lie still anyway, because the purring, the warmth, the presence, it feels like a weighted blanket, only more judgmental and furrier. Let's take a moment to imagine it now. Your room is dim. Maybe a distant streetlight paints stripes across the wall. A fan hums in the background. The sheets are cool, the air is soft, and your cat is a perfect midnight loaf. Not just asleep, not sprawled, not curled, just centered, tucked, composed, at peace. You reach out, gently touch their head. They stir, just a little. Nuzzle your hand, then settle back without breaking loaf form. It's ridiculous how much comfort that gives you, but also kind of profound. You fall asleep, heart a little slower, body a little warmer, all because of a fluffy bread-shaped creature pressed gently against your ankle. You too begin to loaf, to fold inward, to rest, because sometimes the best thing you can be is still.
You may think of the loaf as a cat-exclusive phenomenon, an elite, feline art form honed through years of mysterious instinct and quiet arrogance. But then one day you glance across the room and see something unexpected. A dog. Loafed. And not just loafed, perfectly loafed. Paws tucked, tail wrapped, eyes closed in deep contemplation, like they're about to lead a meditation circle on how to chew squeaky toys mindfully. Yes, the multi-species loaf club is real, and your membership card just arrived. It's a well-known fact that animals across species share similar comfort postures. What we call loafing in cats can also be seen in dogs, rabbits, ferrets, birds, and even reptiles, each with their own delightful interpretation of the form. Let's start with the loafing dog, typically mid-sized, with just enough fluff and just enough chill to embrace the loaf. You might find them curled on your rug, front paws tucked in, chest flat, ears twitching to your every movement. Pet owners often wonder, is this a real loaf or just a nap with flair? Behaviorists suggest it's both. Dogs loaf differently, more relaxed, more sprawling, but still impressively compact.
Some breeds, like Shiba Inus and Corgis, have peak loaf potential. Their naturally low center of gravity make them loaf-adjacent even while standing. Now, let's visit the rabbit realm. Rabbits don't just loaf, they deli-counterloaf. Their bodies flatten into perfect cylinders of fluff, legs invisible, nose twitching, ears relaxed or flop dramatically to the side. It's not just a pose, it's an emotional state. They're soft, silent, and somehow look exactly like dinner rolls. And here's a quirky tidbit. Experienced bunny parents know that a true rabbit loaf is a sign of trust. A bunny in loaf mode won't be startled easily. They're home. They're grounded. They've entered bunvana. Next up, hamsters and guinea pigs. Tiny, round, naturally pre-loafed by design. These little guys curl into themselves like lint balls with opinions. A hamster loafing on a fleece blanket? It's just a whisper of motion, a blink, a yawn, a little sigh as they become one with the softness. Guinea pigs, on the other hand, are dramatic loafers. They plop, they sprawl. Their loaf is less elegant, more chaotic, but equally comforting. And then, brace yourself, there are birds. A parrot loafing is a sight to behold. Chest fluffed, feet invisible, head pulled tight into shoulders. Sometimes their beak rests on one foot like a tiny cane. They look like a feathered dumpling contemplating the meaning of sky. Even budgies loaf. They nestle down into fluff mode, eyes closed, tail tucked, wings snug against their body. It's less about napping, more about committing to being adorable. Pet owners often muse about whether loafing is universal, a language of safety, a declaration of contentment that transcends fur, feather, and scale. Behaviorists tend to agree. Across species, loafing means, I trust this place. Even reptiles get in on it. Ever seen a bearded dragon loaf on a warm rock? It's a flattened pancake-style loaf with tiny legs sticking out like breadsticks. They soak up the heat, close their eyes, let their chin rest on stone like a lizard philosopher. And suddenly, you're not just seeing a pet, you're seeing a loaf. An intentional pause. You begin to notice more. Your dog loafs after walks. Your rabbit loafs after eating parsley. Your parrot loafs while you hum to the kettle. You realize it's not a trend, it's a movement. A quiet, slow, deeply satisfying rebellion against the rush of everything. And you with your phone out, camera ready, catching every curl and tuck, you're the archivist of loaf. Your gallery? Full of them. Cat loaf, dog loaf, unintentional human couch loaf. You've got it all. You think back to yesterday. The dog curled near the heater. The rabbit loafed inside their cardboard castle. The lizard stone still on their warm log. And it clicks. They're not just resting. They're teaching. Be still. Get warm. Loaf where the vibes are good. It's silly. It's profound. It's strangely motivating. And in this quiet moment, eyes soft, blankets pulled high, you're loafing too. Have you noticed it? The way your cat loafs differently depending on the weather. There's the tight winter loaf, a dense, compact form where even the ears seem closer together, the body pulled into itself like a croissant afraid of the cold. And then there's the relaxed summer loaf, where one paw flops ever so slightly to the side, a subtle rebellion against structure, like a lazy pretzel at a beach resort. Welcome to the fascinating world of weather-based loafing. It's a well-known fact that cats are sensitive to environmental changes, especially temperature. Their loaf form? It's not just adorable, it's functional,
a fuzzy little thermostat. Pet owners often wonder, why is my cat loafing on the bathroom tiles in July, but burrowed into my laundry basket in December? And the answer is temperature regulation. Loafing allows cats to control their surface area. A tight loaf in winter conserves heat. A loose semi-loaf in summer releases it. On a cold morning, you might spot your cat nestled into the corner of a blanket, paws tucked so deep you'd think they were born without them. Their tail is usually wrapped tightly along the perimeter, sealing them up like a pastry in a sleeping bag. But in warmer months, oh, you get the floppy loaf. One ear cocked open, a hind paw just barely poking out. They're loafing, yes, but you can feel the reluctance, the humidity-induced, "I'm doing my best, Susan" energy. And on stormy days, oh, that's the anxious loaf. Behaviorists still argue whether storm loafs are a fear response or a comfort-seeking behavior. But anyone who's lived with a weather-sensitive cat knows the loaf gets low during thunder, as if becoming one with the floor might muffle the chaos. You've seen it. Rain begins to tap the windows, and suddenly the loaf migrates to a closet, or under the bed, or into that drawer you thought they couldn't open. The ears flatten slightly, the tail wraps tighter, the eyes hover just above half-mast, scanning, listening. They don't want cuddles, they don't want noise, they want enclosure. And honestly, same. Fringe observation. Some cats develop seasonal loafing spots. In winter, it's the radiator shelf. In spring, it's the sunny edge of your desk. In summer, flat on the bathroom tile, half melted like a decorative breadstick. And in fall, oh, the drama. Cats in autumn loaf with intensity. There's something about a crisp breeze and a patch of filtered sunlight that awakens their inner philosopher. You'll catch them in windows, loafed just so, staring at nothing in particular, contemplating leaf economics, or perhaps their reincarnation as a cinnamon bun. Remember last October? You had that pumpkin-scented blanket on the couch. Your cat loafed on it every day at exactly 4 p.m. You thought it was coincidence. It wasn't. It was a seasonal ritual. The loaf aligns with the Earth's rotation now. And then there are the heat wave days, the days when even thinking feels sweaty. Your cat doesn't loaf tightly then. No, that's when you see the melt loaf. It starts tight, but slowly the edges sag. A leg unspools like ribbon. The tail becomes a limp comma. The face presses sideways into the floor. It's still loaf adjacent, but it's gone boneless. It's a feline protest against summer. You put out ice cubes in the water bowl, you turn on a fan. Your cat, slightly more grateful than usual, relocates their melt loaf to a cooler spot, like the inside of your clean laundry basket. Again, you let him have it, because a weather loaf is vulnerable. It's an honest loaf, this is how I'm doing today kind of loaf. And they shift throughout the day. Morning sun, kitchen window loaf. Afternoon heat, tile loaf. Evening chill, blanket loaf, possibly on your spine. Pet owners often compare notes about this. My cat only loafs near the fridge in August. Mine has a thunder loaf mode under the stairs. My tabby becomes a literal floor tile when the barometer drops. Behaviorists love it because loaf tracking reveals patterns. Loafing, believe it or not, can be an early indicator of illness or discomfort. A loaf that suddenly becomes too tight or shifts locations frequently might be a sign your cat's not feeling 100%. But most of the time, it's just weather-based mood loafing. And tonight, as the air cools, you see it again. Your cat loafed near the door, not pressed to the heater, not sprawled in a dramatic arc, just calm, centered. Their eyes drift closed, their chest rises and falls like the soft rhythm of distant thunder. You walk past them. They don't move. The temperature is just right. The floor is perfect. You get it. You feel it too. So you settle in.
Sink into your own version of stillness. And together, in your own shapes, your own rhythms, you weather the night.
There's loafing, and then there's loafing in pairs. One cat? Cute. Two cats, side by side, perfectly symmetrical loaves on your couch like freshly baked twins from opposite ends of the personality spectrum? Transcendent. You've seen it, maybe even taken 100 photos of it. The matching loafs, the mirrored paws, the simultaneous slow blinks. A moment so serene, so ridiculously photogenic, you'd think they rehearsed it backstage with a choreographer. It's a well-known delight in multi-cat households, the synchronized loaf. Pet owners often wonder if it's intentional. Did the cats mean to mirror each other? Did they consciously form a pose that belongs in a museum under abstract cozy? Behaviorists suggest that cats often mirror each other when they're comfortable with one another. It's a sign of harmony, mutual trust, and occasionally shared pettiness when both decide to loaf exactly where you were going to sit. These duos come in many flavors. Side-by-side loafs on your keyboard, making work impossible. Parallel couch loafs, two fluffy silhouettes at either end like decorative end caps. Windowsill loafs, gazing out at birds they'll never catch but judge anyway. And the most elite form, touching loafs, paw to paw, loaf to loaf, an uninterrupted stream of floof. Fringe behavior? The conjoined loaf. Two cats loaf so close together you're not sure where one ends and the other begins. You reach to pet them and suddenly realize that's not a head, that's a strategically placed tail. And then there's the competitive loaf. You lay out one soft blanket, one warm spot, and somehow both cats try to loaf in the same square inch. The result? An overlapping, chaotic loaf. Ears tilted, elbows nudging, an occasional hiss, not because they're angry, but because neither is willing to de-loaf. Loaf stubbornness is real. Sometimes they'll loaf in sequence, like an airport queue of cozy breadsticks. One in the sunbeam, one in the hallway, one on top of your laundry. A slow-motion parade of loaf formation that follows the light through your house, hour by hour. And just when you think they've hit peak formation, they blink in unison. Two loafs, one heartbeat. It's almost creepy. You can't look away. You might remember a moment like this. It was early evening. The golden hour was sneaking in through the window, and both your cats had claimed the windowsill, loafed tightly, perfectly spaced, tails flicking at the same rhythm. They weren't looking out the window. They were facing you, judging, together. Pet owners often ask, do cats really get along if they loaf near each other? Behaviorists are mixed. Loafing close by is usually a sign of comfort, not necessarily affection. It means they don't feel threatened. In cat language, that's basically love. And sometimes you get something even rarer, the loaf mimic. One cat loafs, the other watches. Then, after a beat, flops down in an identical pose. It's like watching synchronized swimmers, but furrier and slightly more disdainful. Occasionally, this loaf mimicry crosses species. Your cat loafs on the couch, your dog shuffles up beside them, smarts once, and tucks into a big, meaty loaf of his own. Suddenly, your living room is a loaf mosaic. You stand in the doorway, overwhelmed by the cuteness, trapped in a living portrait called "I Was Going to Sit There," and you dare not disturb it. You perch awkwardly on the armrest, drink in hand, watching the loaves breathe. The room is still, the energy soft, the kind of quiet that hums. You realize something.
These loaves are more than companions. They're mood regulators. When they're calm, you're calm. When they're warm, you feel warmer. When they loaf, you feel still. This isn't a trend, it's a vibe. A message from the universe in purring stereo. Slow down, loaf up, you're safe here. So you lean back, let the armrest dig into your hip, let your legs dangle weirdly. It doesn't matter. The couch is taken. And frankly, it's better this way, because you're witnessing peace in duplicate.
Let's drift a little deeper now, past the paws, beyond the purrs, and entertain a thought that may have crossed your mind once or twice while sipping tea and staring at your cat. What does the loaf mean? Not biologically, not behaviorally, spiritually. Because the way your cat folds into that shape, the way they disappear their limbs, slow their breath, and seem to become more than themselves, it starts to feel like more than just napping. It starts to feel symbolic. Pet owners often wonder, half joking, half serious, if cats loaf in moments of introspection. Is it meditation? Is it ritual? Is your cat communing with a higher realm of floof? Behaviorists might scoff, but those of us who've made eye contact with a perfectly composed loaf know better. There's something undeniably meaningful about the pose. It's not dramatic like a belly flop, not casual like a side sprawl. It's intentional, chosen, repeated. The loaf is a decision to pause, to compress, to exist gently. Some fringe cat philosophy circles, yes, they exist, no, we don't judge, suggest that loafing is a cat's natural response to the overwhelming stimulus of modern life, that it is, in fact, a visual expression of feline mindfulness. Fold in, shut out, loaf up. You can almost hear the mantra, no thoughts, only warm paws. And doesn't that feel oddly resonant? Remember that one rainy day, everything gray outside, work piling up, life buzzing like a neon sign, and you walked into the room, and there it was, your cat, mid-loaf, silent, eyes closed, unbothered. It didn't just look peaceful, it looked wise. You almost whispered to it, didn't you? How? The loaf didn't answer, of course, but it didn't need to. Its silence was the answer. Some say the loaf represents containment, a deliberate turning inward. Others see it as control, a body posture that guards the heart, the limbs, the vulnerability. And some see it as trust, because a cat doesn't loaf in danger, doesn't loaf in tension. A cat loafs when it knows the world can wait. And maybe, just maybe, it's a quiet reminder to you, too, that everything doesn't need to be doing at once, that being still is not the same as being stuck, that folding in can be an act of power. Quirky tidbit. In some folklore traditions, animals in symmetrical poses were thought to be communing with unseen forces. Loafs, especially those facing north, were considered signs of peace or protection. Is that superstition? Maybe. Is it charming? Absolutely. Now think of your cat loafing in all those quiet places, on your bookshelf, under the windowsill, in the sunbeam on the carpet where no furniture dares tread, on your open book, especially on your open book. Each loaf was a pause, a punctuation mark in your day, a comma that said, hey, let's breathe here. And you did, maybe just for a second. You leaned down, ran a finger over soft fur, saw the ears twitch, the tail flick, the breath deepen. You matched it. Behaviorists might say loafing is about warmth and protection, about resting without exposing the belly.
They're not wrong, but you've seen what the loaf does to you. It slows you, softens you, invites you to match its rhythm. There's even a kind of emotional mirroring that happens. When your cat loafs, your posture shifts, your voice quiets, you take up less space, but feel fuller somehow. The loaf changes the energy of a room. You're sitting now, probably, somewhere comfortable, watching your screen. Maybe you've got tea. Maybe there's a dim light or a flickering candle nearby. And somewhere, either right now or burned into memory, there's a loaf. Maybe it's happening at your feet. Maybe it happened this morning. Maybe it's the ghost of a loaf long gone but never forgotten. And you realize they weren't just loafing. They were showing you how. So you try it now. You settle deeper into the couch, tuck your hands into your blanket, curl your toes, slow your breath, and for just a moment, you loaf too. And here it is, the final act, the long, slow fade into what can only be described as the eternal loaf state. You've likely seen it in the dead of night, or during a lazy Sunday when the world outside has kindly agreed to keep quiet. Your cat in their favorite spot, maybe that cushion dented just for them, or the corner of your bed warmed by the afternoon sun. They begin, as they always do, with the quiet decision, a scan of the environment, a pause, the back legs fold, the front paws disappear, the eyes close halfway, then fully. And then they don't move. Not for 5 minutes, not for 10, not for 8 hours. You've entered the realm of advanced loafing. It's a well-known pattern. Cats can nap up to 16 hours a day, but not all sleep is created equal. The loaf nap isn't always deep sleep. It's often a resting alertness, a state where your cat can enjoy stillness without being totally vulnerable. But then there are those loafs, the deep ones, the long haul, you'd better not move ones. Pet owners often joke about their cats being stuck in safe mode, completely frozen, perfectly tucked, operating on background processing only. You move about your day, dishes clink, keys jingle, doors open and close. The loaf does not stir. You vacuum around them. They blink once. They stay. You turn off the lights. Still there. Eventually, you check. Are they okay? You lean in, listen. A purr. A twitch of the whiskers. Yes, they are fine. They are just deeply, profoundly loafed. And this loaf isn't about temperature or territory or boredom. This is ritual, a state of being, a meditation. Fringe theory? Some believe the eternal loaf state is how cats process the universe, like downloading updates. They retreat inward, reboot, resurface with new demands, usually for food. Behaviorists acknowledge that these long loafs usually happen in places associated with trust. Your bed, your sweater, that cardboard box you haven't thrown away because, let's be honest, they made it a temple. And sometimes, rarely, you get a treat. The loaf dreams. A twitch of the ear, a tiny chirp, the tail pulses once like punctuation, their eyes flutter behind closed lids, chasing something only they can see. Maybe it's that bug they didn't catch. Maybe it's an endless sunbeam. Maybe, just maybe, it's you petting them gently in some golden-hued dreamscape where the food bowl is always full and the vet never exists. And then, at long last, the loaf stirs. Slowly, gracefully, the spell breaks. A paw reemerges, a stretch impossibly long. The jaw opens in a yawn so big you half expect a tiny flag to pop out saying, "Not complete." The loaf deconstructs itself, and in its place is just a cat again, a regular, beautiful, real cat. You blink, caught in that liminal moment between reverence and reality. The loaf is over, but its imprint remains, on the cushion, on your lap, in your soul. You'll see another tomorrow, or maybe tonight. Maybe when you're half asleep, you'll feel the weight of something small and warm settle against your legs. You won't need to look. You'll know. The loaf has returned, and with it, peace. Now breathe in slowly. Let your shoulders fall. Let the sound of your own breathing soften like paw steps in carpet. Your thoughts? You can let those loaf too. Let them tuck in, fold down, become still. The loaf has taught you this. You are still. You are safe. You are here.